We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men. These familiar words were written 244 years ago tomorrow. They're written by a Virginian named Thomas Jefferson, a founding father, a president of the United States, but also a slave owner. So what are we to do with a man like Thomas Jefferson? I put it to you that these are some of the most significant words ever written in the human language. This declaration of independence is the founding ideal of our nation. That all men are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, rights that cannot be taken away. Rights not granted them by the government, but rather rights inherent in their dignity as human persons. Now, has America lived up to that ideal? Not always. But we are creating a more perfect union. We went from the 3/5 Compromise to the Emancipation Proclamation to the Civil Rights Movement and the Voting Rights Act. We've come a long way. Over 100 years ago, suffragettes won the right for women to be equal members of our society. We've come a long way. Are we that perfect union? Not yet. But yet, millions of people from around the world want to come to America. Because we're a racist, bigoted country with class warfare? No, because we're man's greatest hope on earth. Greatest human hope on earth. Because our founding was on the ideal that men and women have inherent dignity given to them by God because they are created in the image and likeness of God. Now the fascist of the 20th century, the communist of the 20th century, and now the elite secularist of the 21st century all want to tell us that rights come from the state. That we have our rights because the state tells us we have our rights. Because we're members of the Third Reich, are workers of the state. But whenever we begin to take God out of the equation, And for us, I think this started back in the 80s when Judge Bork was declined a nomination to the highest court of the land because he professed a belief in natural law. And since then, we've seen increasingly our courts, our legislatures, our executives think that they are the source of our rights. But they're not, and we need to remember that. It's enshrined in our Constitution, in the 10th Amendment. No rights enumerated here in this Constitution are reserved to the state and to the individual. Our founding fathers knew the danger of too much government, and they believed in individual liberty. So as we look back on this 4th of July weekend, let us remember Thomas Jefferson not as a perfect man, but as a man who had an idea that grew into a great nation that still strives to meet its own expectations. But I fear we can only do that if we have God on our side. Happy 4th of July. God bless you all, and I'll talk to you on Monday.